Hello, my beautiful friends. Welcome to True Crime and Wine, where I rarely drink wine on camera now because I film first thing in the morning, so I would probably have a problem. If you're new here, hi. Hello, welcome. I'm Sherilyn, and I am so glad you found me. If you're not new here, welcome back. Thank you for joining me every single upload. You know I love and I appreciate you so freaking much. So much. It's always so aggressive, you know? I just want to bite you. Somebody asked me, I get the question a lot, why don't I drink wine on the channel anymore? And a few reasons. One is it is because I film now in the morning. Now that this is my job, I don't have to wait until the evening when my husband's home from work and can help with the kids. I just wake up and I get to go to work, and you know, a lot of people frown against that. However, I can assure you, most of the time on Wednesdays or Fridays or whenever we upload, I am drinking wine in the comments with you. So keep that in mind, you know, so that's like real time wine Wednesday, wine Friday, whenever. I'm always sipping with you guys there, chatting. I have so much fun. And now that we have a Patreon, I am so excited to head on over there and just hang out and have drinks with you. I also plan on doing a lot of just hanging out, get ready with me in the mornings too before I film. So I'm really excited for that too. If you're more of a morning person and not a bevy drinker, there's an option for you. And yeah, the Patreon, oh my gosh, I'm overwhelmed, positively overwhelmed, so excited. I have already posted on there that I'm gonna take a little bit longer than I thought I would with the thank you messages, the thank you videos, because I didn't expect the support already. I really thought that I was going to only have to do 20 messages and it's much more than that. So I'm getting to them. I'm so thankful. If you signed up in the first 2 days to, jump on board with that, thank you for your patience. If you didn't, I still hope that you come and hang out with us. I hope you become a member. Your membership is going to a very, very good cause. 70% of it is going to the Sipendale Foundation directly, which I am so excited. It's crazy that we've only had the Patreon for less than a week when I'm filming right now, and already we are able to help somebody. I can't say much right now, but I've been in touch with someone's sister, and I'm hoping that pretty soon I can let you guys know what we've helped with. It's crazy. $4 a month. And you guys are changing people's lives for $4. Mind blowing. So proud of you. So thankful for you. We're going to do great things. All right. That being said, let us get into today's case. Before we do, I have a quick message for you. Huge thank you to our sponsor today, PDS Debt, longtime supporter of the channel. I'm very thankful for them. But if you are a longtime supporter of the channel, you know that I personally cannot use them in Canada, but the response from you has been so positive. You're so thankful to have a solution after feeling extremely overwhelmed by debt. And I have personally been there myself. Even though I'm in Canada, it sounds like we are going through very similar times. If you are in the United States, inflation is on the rise. It looks like it's here to stay. The cost of living is so high right now. Gas prices are soaring. And PDS Debt's goal is to make a real difference in your life and have you saving money the day that you get started with a plan. They have customized 0% interest option for anybody who is struggling with credit card debt, personal loans, collections, medical bills, you name it. And just for listening to this video and this sponsor, they are giving our qualified listeners a free debt saving analysis. All you have to do is complete a 30-second online debt assessment over at pdsdebt.com/Dale. From this, you are going to receive a full breakdown on how to save on interest each month and the quickest way to take care of your debt. This program is for you if you feel like you are constantly making payments every single month and that number is not budging. PDS Debt rolls all of your payments into one low 0% interest monthly payment. Everyone with over $10,000 or more of debt qualifies, and there is no minimum credit score required. Good or bad credit is approved. This option helps you save thousands in interest and helps you pay off your debt in a fraction of the time. Like I said, PDS Debt is offering a free debt analysis just by heading over to their website and completing their 30-second debt assessment. You can do that over at pdsdebt.com/Dale. That is pdsdebt.com/Dale. Thank you again so much, PDS Debt, for sponsoring today's video and for helping people take back their financial freedom over at pdsdebt.com/Dale. Dale.
My name is Darius McCollum. Over the years, I have operated the trains in the New York City subway system, Metro North, New Jersey Transit, and yet I have never been an employee of any of these agencies.
Well, a Manhattan man is getting a free ride to prison.
And McCullum said to have an encyclopedic knowledge of all things transit-related.
All of his crimes were victimless. He would safely make all of the stops, make the announcements.
Because I have Asperger's syndrome, I have trouble making friends. I didn't want to be bullied. I didn't want to be picked on. I didn't want to have to be beaten up.
When he was young, when he was assaulted, he lost that sense of value as to who he is. Wearing a uniform creates a sense of value for Darius.
It was like I was married to the MTA.
He can't help it.
My son, he doesn't belong there because he doesn't hurt anybody.
While he was in jail, he never got any therapy.
There's a possibility that I can definitely die in jail.
All right, I just watched this documentary a couple weeks ago. Somebody tagged me on TikTok. It was Blue Banana on TikTok. I love your guys' handle. So thank you so much for tagging me. I had never heard about this case, and it's different than I think what we usually cover. Not I think, it is very different than what we cover. I highly recommend after watching, you go and watch the documentary Off the Rails. It was directed by Adam Irving, and it's just really unbelievable. We're talking about Darius McCollum today, who is the focal point of the documentary. And in the documentary, you hear Darius himself tell his story in his words, and it's something that I can't really describe. You've got to check it out. You just want to scoop him up and put him in your pocket, but also be like, Darius, come on. You have to remind yourself constantly, this man has been arrested like over 20 something times for crimes that he openly admits doing. So you're probably like, Sherilyn, why do you want to put a criminal in your pocket? And I mean, I don't know. I'm going to go through the story. I'm going to tell you how we got here, and maybe you'll feel the same. Darius McCollum was born March 28th, 1965 in Brooklyn to his mother Elizabeth and his father Samuel McCollum. He was an only child and grew up in a very happy home. From a very early age, his path and obsessions and goals in life started. And I'm talking before you could even mentally comprehend something that you like. You know, when a baby is restless, it's the middle of the night, you don't know what you can do anymore to put them to bed. And I don't know if it happens so much anymore, but back in the day, especially, I know my parents did it with me and their parents did it with them. You pop your baby in the back of the car and you go for a drive. What Darius's mom did was she would take him to the subway and bring him on the trains. And this was from that point forward, Darius's happy place. By the age of 5 years old, Darius had already memorized the entire New York City subway system. And that love and obsession didn't just fall to trains, although that was a large part of it. It was pretty much like every part of the New York transit system. Now, despite, that being like genius to have that comprehension and that knowledge at 5 years old, when it came to school, Darius struggled. He really had a hard time focusing and applying himself. Not that it was tough for him, but his mind was elsewhere. His obsession was elsewhere. And when it came to forming relationships with children in school as well, he also struggled socially. So by the time he was only in the 2nd grade, he was put into a special education program in New York. And even though Darius got picked on for not having the best grasp on socialization and friendships, he was always put together so well and very kind and gentle to everybody. He had this natural charisma where people were just drawn to him. Typically, it was his teachers or, older kids. He is a self-proclaimed mama's boy. His mom really always did everything that she could to ensure that he had a promising future. Some of their favorite things to do together was go to Broadway plays and go shopping together. At a young age, he just had impeccable fashion taste. Despite enjoying other things though, if we're talking passion, trains, buses, that was Darius's jam. I think it's important to know something about Darius that will help make sense as to why that passion and obsession is so focused and hard to kind of compartmentalize. Darius has Asperger's. I've often seen in the comments a lot of Sippendales out there who have Asperger's. It's becoming easier, I think, to diagnose, which helps long term. But we're talking like 70s and 80s here. It wasn't as easily diagnosed or a lot of like support out there. Some of those more telling clues, though, is somebody who is highly intelligent. They do have some social impairment. And there also is a lot of characteristics of having an intense passion on one subject specifically, or something, like kind of like where it would correlate. If it wouldn't just be trains, then the transit system. Routine and consistency is also a very big part of their lives. So something like buses and trains is the epitome of just like routine, consistency, schedule, on time, because they have really tight schedules to get everybody to where they need to be on time. And that was a big part of why Darius loved it. He rode the trains with his mom any chance that he could. While he was on the train, he would just look outside the window. He would memorize every stop, the tracks that turned off of, every route. He was so familiar with the routes that when he was 7 years old, relatives would call him and be like, "Hey, Darius, I need to go here. What is going to be the easiest way to get there?" And he knew. Going on the trains was also a really great way for him to escape issues that he was having at school with other kids. When he was riding the trains, he became so well known to other riders and operators as well that became his support system and his comfort and his friends and family. As he was building up that relationship, people thought he was adorable. He's this young little guy who knows everything. So the conductors would give him the responsibility of collecting the fare as people got on and pushing the buttons. So that really made him feel understood and accepted and a part of the team. And then when Darius was 12 years old, there was an incident that happened at school which changed the course of his life forever. And it also really just deepened that comfort and attachment and tie to the transit system. The incident happened while Darius was at school one day. There was a storm that day and nobody in the class showed up except for the teacher, Darius, and another student. Since the teacher couldn't have a regular teaching day, it was just kind of one of those, entertain yourselves, just you kind of get to hang out and do your own thing day. So she gave the kids each a puzzle to work on. And I guess this other student wanted both of the puzzles. And the teacher was like, "No, bro, you work on yours. Darius has his," and had them each set down separately and then carried on with her own thing. So I guess at one point she briefly left the classroom. Darius is busy, distracted, working on his puzzle. And at some point, this kid gets up, goes to the teacher's desk, grabs some scissors, comes back and just starts stabbing Darius in the back. The teacher hears this blood-curdling scream from Darius, rushes in and sees this child over top of him, with his arm raised ready to stab again, intervenes. Darius was rushed to the hospital. He lost so much blood that he was unconscious. He goes into surgery because this child had punctured his lung, and he was there for over 2 weeks recovering. After this attack, Darius changed. He already was struggling fitting in at school. He didn't feel accepted or understood. So this made him withdraw even further from his classmates, especially because the student that did this remained in Darius's class. Again, I'm always like, yeah, it was a different time. Didn't really know a lot about post-traumatic stress and all that stuff. But I mean, at least if the kid had to stay in the school, put him somewhere else. You're forced to look at this child who attacked you, this classmate of yours who stabbed you, and you're just supposed to carry on and go to school every day. So needless to say, Darius really didn't enjoy going to school even more than he already hadn't. And he would find any excuse not to go to school. There were often times where Darius would go in the hallway and pull the fire alarm, and everybody would leave the class and then he would just leave because he's like, I'm out of here. Other mornings he would pretend like he was going to school, and his parents would, see him out, have a great day, and he would just go to the subway and spend the whole day on the trains. Everybody tried to do everything that they thought was right for Darius, keep him in school, get his education. And like I said, no one really correlated what Darius was going through, A, having Asperger's, and then B, some PTSD over this attack that just happened to him. So when you think somebody, not feel, I guess like the thought process is, okay, well, they're rebelling. Ew. And the solution back then was if somebody wasn't listening or they were acting out, doctors just said, we should commit them. So Darius was hospitalized for 9 months. He was medicated and put on Thorazine, which is made for conditions like schizophrenia, not Asperger's and PTSD. If you're not being properly medicated with the right medication, that's detrimental. His mom saw that this was doing no good for him. She took him back home and again, still tried to encourage him to do the right thing and go to school. And he would escape and rush back to the trains. And anybody in the station who was like a fellow rider who had any questions of like, hey, why are you here all the time? He'd just say that his family member was an employee and that he came to help. And the employees loved him. He would sweep for them, clean their work areas, go and help get them food, like whatever they needed. So of course they encouraged Darius to go to school and then come out and hang out later, but no one was pushing because he was making everybody's lives a lot easier. Through that, his bonds with operators just strengthened as well. They taught him everything that he wanted to know. Any question he had about buttons and stops and how to do this and how to do that, they taught him how. He knew every command center code. He knew every announcement for every line and every stop. On his birthdays and at Christmas time, workers would give him gifts that involved, being a member of the transit system. They gave him his own uniform, his own keys. He had a little flashlight, a hard hat, pretty much anything that any crew member had, Darius owned a part of the uniform. Darius's mom even would go to the rail yard herself and be like, listen, I know he loves being here. I know you love having him here, but I really need you to encourage him to go back to school. And some would, but most wouldn't. There were operators that would actually fight with each other about who Darius was going to ride with that day because he was so helpful. And he also just brightened everybody else's day. Everybody who came on expected Darius to be there, and it just made the workday more enjoyable. By the time he was 15, a lot of operators had taught him how to drive the trains. And one in particular had so much confidence in Darius that he asks Darius to operate his route solo for a few hours one day so that he can go and visit a girlfriend. Darius is like, I got you. Like, I'm going to be alone? Yeah. So he ran the route that day and it was going okay. I mean, it was going great in terms of, on schedule, proper commands. He always had this peppy message for everybody to just brighten their day. So he's killing it. But passengers are getting on and noticing that it's a child that's operating the train. So they get off the train and they go and they find a supervisor on the ground and they're like, you've got a little dude running the train right now. So they stop the train, ask Darius where the operator is. And he's like, oh, he just stepped off from me. He's just over there. I'll be right back. And they're like, okay, try to go and look for him. And Darius is like, yeah, he'll be back any minute. I got to go back in here, though. We got to get these people to their destination on time. And the supervisors are like, no, the train is now out of service. We've got to find the guy who's supposed to be driving it. So little Darius is like, okay, well, I got to let everybody know. Gets on, makes a little announcement, lets passengers know they're out of service now. They got to get off and find a different route, apologizes for the delays. And he gets off the train and he's arrested. From this point, it is like all over the news and they call him like a train bandit. Oh, this teenager hijacked the train and took it for a joyride. And he was just plastered on every newspaper in the city. Obviously, from this point on, his mom was already uncomfortable with how much, he was missing school and trains were taking over his life. And she just said, you're not allowed anywhere near the train stations anymore. It's at this point that people in Darius's life realized that there was something about the trains that pulled him in, and it was so strong, he could not control that temptation. Again, though, there was no diagnosis. This makes sense to anybody who knows somebody or has a family member with Asperger's or even autism. My cousin is autistic, and ever since he's been able to communicate, it's computers and DVDs and monitors, and he's got so many going all at the same time, and he knows what each one is doing, where he's got to skip to if he's trying to like read a script or watch a show. I don't even have the lingo because he's so smart at like getting into like the back end of things. But if you were to walk in the room, you could just be like, oh my gosh, but he's always been like that. So I just go and I think of somebody trying to take that away from him. And so where my cousin's love and obsession falls under computers and monitors and shows and stuff like that, Darius's was the transit system. And so he's being told, yeah, you can't do that. You can't go there. It really took a toll on him, and it did get to the point where his mom thought, okay, maybe we can try to find a healthy way to do this. I'm not going to completely strip this away from you, which I think was smart given the lack of resources at that time. I don't think that she knew how detrimental it could be to take that love away from him. So as Darius got older, when he was 17 and 18, he applied to work for the MTA. Now he's old enough to get a job. And I mean, he's a freaking shoo-in, you'd think, right? He was already doing the job so well and not getting paid. I mean, there were people who even spoke about the day that Darius was driving solo, and it's on the news, this hijacking. And everybody who was on that route was like, he was so lovely. We had nice, pleasant announcements. We weren't late. We didn't miss a stop. But no, he applied twice and both of his applications were rejected. And one of the excuses that was given was that he was a liability because of the reputation he had as a hijacker. Like, do not even get me going. If someone wasn't looking to get their, rocks off, none of that would have happened. Darius was trying to do a solid, and he's, being given permission by an adult, by someone of authority that he looks out to. He thinks that he's doing something that's okay, that it's allowed. So I don't know why this person never came forward and tried to do the right thing. But this was really a turning point. And since he's getting older, it's not like, oh, little Darius, come and hop on and you get to collect the fare and press all the buttons. It got to the point where, he's old enough to have a job and is wanting a job. And instead of getting one, he's told not only is he not allowed to work there, but he can't help there anymore either. And like I said, if you know somebody with Asperger's, you don't just lose interest overnight in something that you are very passionate about and love. To Darius, this place was his home. This was his comfort. This was his go-to. And he didn't know how to let it go. So from this point on, he felt he kind of needed to take matters into his own hands. And he started impersonating train conductors and bus drivers. For 30 years, he has worked for the MTA for free and operated over 500 trains and buses, but he did not have authority to do so. This was illegal. He was stealing them. He would go to the bus yard. He knew when security wasn't going to be there or when there was going to be like a quick shift change. And he knew the buses were left unattended with the keys in them ready to roll, or most of them just needed a button to press. So he would go and take them. And he knows that it's wrong. He knows he's not supposed to do this, but he can't help it. He's like, I have a problem with the way that passengers get treated on their route. You don't just want this like bland announcement or this, grumpy person taking you to work and this is the first thing that you're going to see in the morning. He wanted to make people's day. His announcements would be like, good morning, passengers. Your next stop is Dynamite D Station. Hope you enjoy your day. And I think it's important to know that, of course, people can't just do illegal things. But his intention was never danger or to do harm. It was the complete opposite. There was never an accident. He never missed a stop. No one was ever late getting to their destination. He always made sure to take the fare so that the transit system was not losing money. And he was literally working for free. But because it's not legal to, just take trains and buses and get people to their destination because you are passionate about it and love that and want to, he's been arrested 29 times, which has also made it very hard for him to get legitimate employment because he's a felon. So there's been lots of times in his life that he's been homeless, living on food stamps. And it's such a complicated situation because, even his own family and friends and loved ones can't understand why he's breaking the law, begging him to stop. And he says, I will. I don't want to go back to jail, but he just can't. And a large part of this story is the uneducation of the legal system when it comes to a diagnosis like Darius is. During one of his arrests, he was appointed a lawyer. Actually, sorry, he was not appointed a lawyer. A lawyer wanted to take on the case. And this lawyer was known for wanting to take on very high profile things. He's there for the clout. And he really just wanted his name tied to it, but didn't really do much. There was one time that Darius was arrested and he was stuck in jail for 2 years because his lawyer would just not show up for court. So he'd have this extra time tacked onto his sentence until they could, reschedule a new date, which we know does not happen overnight. And Darius had asked for a new lawyer multiple times, and the judge said no. You aren't capable of making that decision of requesting a new lawyer because you have a mental condition. Cue the blood boil. He has Asperger's. If his interest was the judicial system and being a judge, he probably could have taken that judge's position 10 times over. Fully qualified to know or have a say in his legal wants and needs. So yeah, because of the delays, he spent an extra 2 years in jail. And this lawyer was eventually charged with stealing over $100,000 from his clients. So it wasn't just Darius's experience with him. He just was a shitty dude. Oh, something that's huge that I forgot to mention was the prison he spent a lot of time in is Rikers Island. Does not have the best reputation, and his mental health really struggled because of the conditions that were in there. There were lots of times that Darius has tried to unalive himself, which is, that aspect of his life, mental health and suicide and depression was never a thing. And in all of the years of being in prison, he's never received any mental health treatment, no therapy for having compulsive thoughts. And so that really, I think, adds to the inability of having those tools to appropriately move forward when he's released. When he puts on the uniform, that he turns into somebody else, that makes him feel comfortable, that makes him feel safe. He also feels important and part of the haven that made him feel accepted growing up. Watching the documentary, I found myself a lot just wanting to scream at Darius and be like, they don't deserve you. The MTA does not deserve your love and dedication. It's like giving it all into a relationship and not getting anything back. But I do realize that that's much easier said than done to understand. But his dedication goes so far as standing on the front lines of a picket line when MTA staff members were fighting for fair wage and contracts. 9 people ended up getting arrested, I guess, because an alarm was pulled. And Darius gets arrested. Doesn't even work there. Doesn't benefit at all from the strike personally. But he felt a part of the team, so he wanted his team employees to be taken care of. He was in jail for 20 days for doing that. He's also been imprisoned for things that he openly admits that he didn't do. And Darius has never lied. Anytime he's confronted, did you steal this train or bus? He's like, yeah. Or yes, I did this. Or yeah, I have the keys to that storage room. Haven't taken anything, but I got them. He's very honest and upfront. And one time he was riding on a train just as a passenger, and the emergency brake system had gone off. And when he got off to help the operator, he was actually the one who was instructing him, oh, okay, I think this might have gone on. I think if you try this, this can eliminate something like this happening in the future. And when the police arrived, they arrest him. And he's like, I did not trip the brake system. I would never risk somebody's safety. You can dust the panel for my prints. You're not going to find them. I did not do this. They never did that. Arrested Darius. And the judge on that sentencing says, according to the search I did on the internet, Darius does not have Asperger's. Meanwhile, one of the leaders of the Asperger's Association is sitting in the front row next to Darius's mother, has confirmed to his family and loved ones, yes, this is why Darius does things the way that he does, thinks the way that he thinks, supporting there. And the judge has the audacity to be like, I did a quick internet search. Yeah, you don't have Asperger's. And she sentences him to 5 years in jail. It gets worse. While he is in jail, this was around the time of 9/11. So he's actually reached out by the FBI to ask for his help on making transit systems more secure. And he cooperates. He wants to help. He gives all of his input and suggestions, like if we did this, it would make it more difficult for that. He's so smart. And he wants to do well because this is his haven. He wants to protect it. He doesn't want anybody coming and doing harm there in the place that he loves so much. And after providing all of this information, he was punished because they felt like he knew too much about the system, that if he was ever approached by somebody who did want to do harm, he'd be easily persuaded and cracked to help terrorists. So he was locked in secure housing where he was shackled. He didn't get to socialize with anybody. He didn't get any privileges. He was basically in solitary confinement for trying to help. After he was released, then he actually met a lady in the train station. He was in uniform that day, and they get to talking because she believes he's like a conductor. And quickly, the relationship became very intense very fast. They moved in, fell in love, all the things. And then he gets arrested again. She finds out he's not a train operator. And he's just devastated because he's like, what? I know like I shouldn't do this. I know that I have the capability of pouring my whole heart and soul into something. Like, why can't it be my wife? And he begs for her forgiveness when he's in jail. And by this point in the relationship, she's seen the loving and attentive, caring, kind side of Darius. So she forgives him and they get married while he's in jail that time. But unfortunately, when he's released, he just came to the realization that his love for his wife was not stronger than his love for trains. As much as he wanted it to work, he just couldn't help from spending all of his time at the station and not enough time at home. It would be like somebody, wanting to spend the night at the bar or spending their time with somebody else in the evenings. That's what Darius was doing, and his wife just wanted him to be at home and spend time with her, and he just couldn't. One of the last times that Darius was arrested, the condition of his release was that he wasn't allowed to ride the trains or any transit system anymore. And he was also equipped with an ankle monitor. And so for a while, he was doing okay, but there was no other outlet or like safety for him to go to. His parents were up in North Carolina, and he wasn't allowed to go. It was part of his conditions. He had to stay in New York. There was no social assistance for him, no housing. So he'd find himself without any support and almost, back in that desperation. And he thought, okay, well, if I'm being told that I can't do what I love, I might as well be in jail because I feel like I'm in a prison anyway. So he cut off his ankle monitor, and he was sent back to jail for a year. After this release, in November 2015, Darius was arrested for the last time. He stole a Greyhound bus and was ultimately arrested at gunpoint by 5 New York City police officers. And this arrest was different than all of the others. For 2 years, there was a battle within the court system where his lawyers were trying to advocate for him to be in mental health court because they weren't sure where his diagnosis fit. And the prosecution was, keep pushing for dangerous criminals and, you got to spend your life behind bars. And ultimately they won. He was seen as a dangerous criminal with a large list of repeat offenses with no understanding to his diagnosis. The judge ruled that he was dangerously mentally ill, despite the state's psychiatrist saying he was neither of those things. Darius was sent to Rochester Forensic Psychiatric Hospital. He's classified as a Track 1, which is the most dangerous of inmates. There's 3 options, 1 being the worst, 3 being the least dangerous. One of the main characteristics of being classified as a Track 3 is that you are highly violent. And Darius has never, ever been violent. There are regular hearings that he's able to attend to see if he's still dangerous and violent. And that's what his supporters say is the issue to begin with, because he's still in there and he's never been either. So if there's no change in his situation, how is he able to be released? He'd never been dangerous or violent. To this day, this is where Darius still is. Not getting the resources he needs. He himself is living in dangerous conditions because he doesn't qualify to adapt to that situation. So there is a petition that his supporters have started. The petition is only 5,000 signatures away from their goal, which I know we can do. Please go sign it. He is not in a place that he deserves to be at all. It's interesting, actually, Letitia James, the New York Attorney General, has ignored all pleas to overturn that ruling that he's a dangerous criminal so that he wouldn't be considered a track one. And she's also the attorney that Teron Evans Jr., who we talked about last week, who his mom is like desperately trying to have take over that case and assign like a fair investigation. Politics blow, man. Doing what I do is just open my eyes so much, and it's discouraging to see how hard it can be for people to get justice. It literally makes me want to cry. I realize that, the things Darius has done in his life are not legal, but it just does break your heart when you kind of go back from the very beginning to see like how he ended up here, and then not having proper tools and diagnosis and then resource, like when you're being put in the system, it's hard enough to get help when you're not. He's just not even really been given a fair chance to go about things the right way. And I mean, I'm going to be honest, like, is it really that hard to give the man a job? Like, this is all he wants in his life. He's worked for free. Like, he happily works for free. Surely, you don't need to toss him in the conductor's seat and just like have him go on his way from the get-go. But this man is beyond qualified for the job. He could be like a usher or a toll dude. He knows the system better than anybody. I'm sure he'd gladly love to just like stand there and ask people what the most effective way to get about their route is, and he would know. I just don't believe that there's like nothing that he can't do within the transit system, but that's my opinion. And my opinion is also that he surely does not deserve to be where he is right now. So please, please, please sign the petition. You have no idea how much that means. I know some people think like, oh, like what's my signature gonna really do? It's huge. It's the matter of helping families just even press on further, and they know that there's more people in their corner. Seeing those numbers of support and more signatures coming through and the numbers rise, it gives them this like validity that they've got support for their argument and that they're not alone in believing that this sentence is so wrong. So please don't ever underestimate your impact to lift somebody up in their time of need and support. And it really is as simple as putting your name on a petition. So I will have that link below. If it's not linked below, please call me out on it. You know me. I've got like so many things that I'll go over and I'll miss forms and links, and I apologize. I don't mean to. So it does help me when you remind me that it's not there. All right, that is it for me today. I'm all fired up again. I'd say I should go into politics, but it's just like not my jam. But I'm also really frustrated. So it's like, okay, well, at like what point do you try and get in there and change things? I don't know. And I know that I can't change it all. I can't just bounce around. I'd be like in Edmonton politics. I wish I could be a universal politician, hopper, suggester person. I don't know. I'm just so overwhelmed right now. Please sign the petition. Just please, please, please sign the petition. Okay? I love you so much. I will see you in the next video. I will miss you terribly. Until then, make sure to love each other, love yourself, and I will see you soon.